Pokemon Sword and Shield does do a lot of things well. The theming of the gym challenge is a great idea, and it makes a lot of sense. In a world where Pokemon battles are the most popular hobby and competition, why wouldn't there be a region-wide tournament that is televised for the world to see? Why wouldn't the best trainers become celebrities in said region? The game is also beautiful. Yes, people like to diss on the trees in the wild area and some bad animations, and indeed those are true and inexcusable, but many move animations are great, especially Dynamax ones. The towns and areas with the vistas in the distance are just gorgeous. A lot of the new Pokemon are cool, Dynamax is an exciting addition to gameplay, clothes customization is good, and it's Pokemon, man. It's just a fun experience to build your team and level up in battle. But that's pretty much as far as it goes.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.
It does just the basics right, what was necessary for a new game to be created. They tried to innovate with the wild area, but just no. We actually thought that the whole game would be that and that there would be no routes, but it's just an open box that is mostly empty and is only good for finding old gen Pokemon that you can find in routes. Pretty much the Safari of this game, only you can control the camera. It's a nice test, but it doesn't really count as anything substantial, and that leads into the first of several things in which this game is lacking. It just doesn't do anything innovative. And one could say that innovation isn't the hallmark of quality, and we should judge it for what it is, but it's just impossible to not think about the potential that this extremely successful franchise has. The game should just be open. You should always have camera control. You should have robust exploration and side activities. Literally every time you're in the wild area, it's bittersweet because it feels so cool and free, and you're just like, this should be the whole game. Because then you're in the towns and you imagine what it would be like to be able to control the camera and explore some of the very deep towns, and it'd be much cooler. It's just ridiculous to imagine that Breath of the Wild came out 2 years ago, and this is the best Game Freak could do with the media franchise that makes the most money in the world, by the way. But fine, let's go ahead and judge it for what it is. We would have been more than happy and satisfied if it was stellar in the linear experience it chose to deliver. Except it wasn't. The routes are somehow less engaging than before. Though visually interesting and creative as well, they're all so short. They end so quickly, they're not a challenge. Either that or they have people healing you every other second without you asking. The quote-unquote victory road is laughable with how not challenging it is. Somehow the 2D routes and victory roads from the old games felt more engaging because they were genuinely hard to traverse through. You often weren't sure where to go, and there were a bunch of trainers and monsters in the way. And also the story goes nowhere at all. For real, a compelling story would have made this game for us, and we'd barely be complaining about it, or at least we'd have a much more positive perception of it. But the story ends up being pointless. Many characters are charming, and like we said, the theming and gym challenge aspects really work. We especially love the NPCs that cheer you on in different cities, but the story in itself, like the main conflict outside of the gyms, is just non-existent. Compared to older games, you'd have these moments where the gym part takes a break, and you have to go on this area surrounded by bad team members because of a specific story reason. Usually you slowly start to figure out the intentions of the team, you get to know their goals and why you should stop them. Now, we're not saying that every game needs to follow this exact path, but something needs to happen. There needs to be some build-up as the story progresses to reach a crescendo. In this game, the first sections of the game are interesting and give you hope, characters go through some interesting changes, and mysteries of the past are built up through exposition. But then the character arcs go straight nowhere, and the mysteries stay confusing, and the story is like a short scene of exposition every other town. Then like, oh, the ground shook one time, that was weird, what was that about? Okay, well, if you don't care, we don't. Nothing actually happens to build up the story, and then in the end some important things are said casually in conversation, like wow, what a cool reveal that was. Some stuff is just not explained at all, and then you just go fight a thing and then the game ends. Cool. You end up doing things you don't even know the purpose of because it wasn't explained right, even though the game is just mostly exposition. It's just embarrassing, honestly. You never expected this game to have the narrative complexity of Game of Thrones, but they couldn't even do a simple linear story right. Real talk, why are some of the animations so ugly? Like, you don't even need to do something amazing. Most simple moves have serviceable yet basic animations, but how could you have them just stay still like that on a AAA game? Why do models fade away when you're like 2 feet away from them? We would genuinely like an answer. How does that happen? Would having them appear from a distance break the game? How poor is your programming team? The graphics on this game are solid but not groundbreaking, and you can't blame the Switch. Breath of the Wild looked better. You could see structures and people from way far away, and the only issues it had were frame rate drops in some heavy areas. In so many aspects of it, this game just has the undeniable feeling of being rushed out. It's hard to come up with a conclusion to this game because the things it does right are great and immensely fun, but the things it doesn't are so frustrating. We hadn't played Pokemon for years, so we had to check this one out, now that we had the console for it. But Nintendo desperately needs to rescue this franchise, because though this game was a worthwhile experience, without big changes, we really don't see ourselves buying the next one full price. The problem is Game Freak keeps doing yearly releases, not giving themselves enough time to make something amazing. Nintendo has always been willing to delay games for quality purposes, but in this particular case, since Game Freak owns shares of the Pokemon Company, it could be they themselves want to just keep on making the big bucks with the quantity over quality method. This is all just speculation, we don't know, but we really hope something changes, because if not, watch us play Temtem for the next decade. So we're Gamehala, a gaming news and entertainment network. We mainly post heavily on Instagram, so you can check us out there in the description, and we're going to start posting videos here from time to time as well. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe. See ya!